Welcome to another Coffee in English with me, the Alchemist. Today we have a special guest, a great human being who brings some fresh air into the overcrowded world of longevity and biohacking. He is a retired network security engineer, but that's not the point. He is 61 years old. That's his chronological age. But he actually looks, and physically he is, more like at 38 years old. Yes, perhaps it's quite confusing, but you will figure it out. Dave Pascoe follows a more budget-friendly approach compared to Bryan Johnson, spending only 30k USD per year compared to 2 millions from Bryan. But still, Dave achieves remarkable biological age reversal, emphasizing balance and moderation in his lifestyle. On his very first appearance on a podcast, Dave will tell us more about his story, his lifestyle, how serving communities, helping people, may be the unfair advantage for a younger biological age. We will discuss about Dave's experiences, hacks, and routines, his plan for the future, and much, much more. It has been really a pleasure to meet and discuss with this great and profound human being. So, without further ado, let's have a coffee. Wait, it's a love for longevity? Oh, forget about it. Dear listeners, let's welcome to the show Dave Pascoe. Okay, hi Dave. Welcome to the show. So we have a quick chat on LinkedIn. We connected on LinkedIn not so long ago, and thanks again for being here today and for your time. And I know that we have something in common other than being an engineers. I think you're coming from Sicily, right?
Yes, my mom's parents came from Sicily.
But
Yes.
I'm from Palermo, Sicily, so we feel the same.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it.
If you agree, I've been through your website, which is I will post all the links into the show notes, and I read a lot articles, etc. I would like just to dive deep a little bit on your what do you think so your personal view of what's happening in the world of the longevity space, and I have plenty of questions here, notes here and there. I collected some questions even from the zero community. You know that after Bryan Johnson, so there are a lot of communities, zero community around the world. I'm part of the one here in Europe. So there are meetups here and there. I hosted a meetup in Luxembourg, covering also UAE. So first of all, how old are you to now?
Right, as of right now,
Yes.
I am 61. I
61.
will be 62 in August.
Whoa. Okay, that's very good. And what's your biological age?
Well, okay, that depends on whose test you consult.
Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
I
Good.
think I like what the what the True Diagnostic Test
Yeah.
revealed. I think it said 37.95. I think that was the most flattering number that I've seen. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the Rejuvenation Olympics is more extrinsic motivation. I'm more interested with the first question. Why you went into the biohacking and longevity on the first instance? I want to hear.
that's a big
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed you asked about biohacking and longevity and not health and fitness, because that's a whole different story and a whole different lineage there. But so biohacking and longevity, I would say goes back to about 12 years ago. I think it was around 2012. I was just turning 50, and I was working a very stressful job as a network security architect and engineer. I was also caring for both of my elderly parents who were down with their second cancer apiece. And so they lived here with me. That was really stressful. I was also training for my very first marathon, which little did I know, was very stressful on my body. I just didn't think about it. And I was doing my P90X regularly and trying to do that with marathon training. So, I mean, here I thought I was Joe Cool, Mr. Health and Fitness guy. I thought I was in great shape, doing everything right. And then I heard on a podcast that I was listening to something about a test for telomeres and their length. And I learned that telomeres, well, I think everybody knows this by now, but 12 years ago, this was, radical. That, telomeres are like the little end caps on the end of your shoelaces that keep your shoelaces from unraveling. And for DNA, they basically mark the ends and beginnings of other strands of DNA. And then every time your cells divide, those get shorter and shorter. Mm-hmm. And so taking this test, I thought it was going to come back and say that I had the telomeres of a 20-year-old, right? Of course. But again, I was just turning 50, and the results came back to say that I had the telomeres of a 68-year-old. And that shocked me. That really scared the snot out of me. And I knew at that point that I needed to learn a little bit more, because obviously I was missing something really big about my health and fitness and, well, longevity. And so that started my deep dive into reading books and podcasts and searching on Dr. Google to find out, is there a way to increase the length of my telomeres, which at the time there wasn't. But through time, I kept investigating that. And eventually they started coming out with supplements and things that, like TAM 818, TA 65. Those that can help increase the telomeres. Mm-hmm. And along with that telomere test came a consultation with a staff physician. And so I signed up for that, because I wanted to know, why in the heck are my telomeres so short, and what can I do about it? And one of the first things they did was started asking me questions about my lifestyle, which I thought was a little puzzling, because I didn't make the connection of, well, what would that have anything to do with the length of my telomeres? And, through the course of them just asking me questions about, the stress of my job, the stress of taking care of my parents, doing the P90X, which is really extreme, training for the marathon, I was basically beating my body up pretty bad. And they had seen the same situation with, top athletes that had taken the test. So it was pretty common. They knew what it was immediately. So it was a matter for me then at that point to start to try to mitigate the stress in my life, get back into, a meditation practice that I used to have years and years before that I had just totally forgotten about. Delve a little bit more back into yoga, which I also used to do and had gotten out of the habit of. And then starting to look at my, diet and supplementation a little more closely.
Yeah, that's a great story, and then that's a great background, because basically, so I think it's some notes for the show notes as well. So 12 years ago, so you did this accidentally, this test, and then you realized that that time you were adding more physical stress on top, a lot of stress coming from different ways. Yeah.
Psychological, physical, mental, emotional.
Correct. So
living with your parents can be
this is beside that. Yes, this is and plus, so you were not aware of what all this stuff about longevity, and this was at the beginning. 12 years ago was quite early, honestly, and at the beginning. So you were adding all these stressors to your life, but I linked to what the initial, so health and fitness with biohacking and longevity. Because at that time, if someone looking at from an external point of view to your life, he is doing this, he's doing that, he's doing P90X, he's doing. I'm more Sean T type of person than. Anyway, insanity type, insanity and be a focus 25. And
I tried doing insanity, I couldn't.
where it's I done also P90X 3, the short one. It's very holistic as approach, and it does include yoga as well. But looking at that point of life, okay, training for the marathon, doing P90X, doing this and doing that. Okay, you are perfectly fit, but inside, for the deep inside, you realize that there was something. But at that time you did not know what
right.
exactly.
And I've seen that before, like in other, in weightlifters, bodybuilders. you've seen them where they look beautiful from the outside, and yet you know that metabolically they're in terrible shape. But I never ever imagined that about myself, just because I thought I was doing everything right. I was taking like tons of supplements. I had no idea why. I just knew they were supposed to be good for me. So I had what they call the very expensive pee, because I was
Yeah,
taking
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
stuff I didn't need at all, and things are actually doing me some harm, and I was completely unaware of.
I pass through that as well. Now, for instance, I have the cabinet full of supplement as well, but I know when to take, what to take, and just I manage periodically and try for other things. So I really curious. The first question about your supplements, and because then we will talk about the routine, etc. Is it this TAM 818 and TA 65? So what are those exactly? Because it's something that is new to me.
Okay.
Personally.
Both of those are telomerase activators.
Mm-hmm.
So they're supposed to help. The telomerase is the active enzyme that makes telomeres longer.
Okay, and so you start taking this 12 years ago? Or?
I don't think those were available 12 years ago. So probably 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's been that long.
And you keep
At least 5 years ago. About 5 years ago. I probably
and
started.
this is one of the KPI of the indicators you are monitoring?
Well, telomeres are just one of the many things
Yeah.
that I do measure. And so I have seen my telomeres lengthening.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that getting better. It's going in the right direction.
Perfect.
It's not something that happens overnight. It's a very slow.
Yeah.
So,
No, but time ago, I heard someone saying that we cannot reverse. So we can stop reducing,
correct.
shortening, but we cannot. But apparently, this is not correct.
They used to think that. I guess
Yeah.
it was through experimentation and the study of cancer that they realized that cancer cells can live forever because they produce their own telomerase. That's how they fell upon this whole telomerase activation thing, was through cancer studies.
Oh, okay. So this is one point. So you started changing your lifestyle first, and then implementing different things, and going to what have been your biggest challenges during your the path from 12 years ago to now? The biggest challenge.
Biggest challenges. That's a good one. I would have to say trying to unlearn things that I thought were right and weren't, and be open to reevaluating things that I'm doing that probably weren't beneficial.
Right.
I mean, I've always been that way in my life, even as a small child, but it's just a matter of how deep down that rabbit hole you want to go. I'll take, for instance, the food that we eat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go back in time.
Sure.
So another long story. When I was a kid, I used to have a lot of questions, like most kids do. But I had a father who didn't have a whole lot of patience for my questions. So he would always tell me that my questions were stupid. And he would just basically tell me to shut up. And it even got to be a sort of a running joke that when I would ask one of my, dumb questions, my dad would say, "Hey, David, you know what?" And I would say, "Yeah, I know. I'll shut up." And so it wasn't the kindest thing in the world to do, but I mean, that was my dad. So one of the things that kind of forced me to do, I thought I was just dumb and that I was missing things that were real obvious to everybody else. So it forced me to look deep into things and try to figure them out for myself. And in doing that, I mean, I realized I couldn't get any answers asking my family. I started looking at other people and seeing what they were doing. And honestly, as I look back at this today, I think this was a huge gift to me, because if I had gotten answers from my family and done pretty much what everybody else does, I would just be repeating what I learned from my parents, which is what they learned from their parents and they learned from their parents. And I would have been destined to do all the same things that they did. But instead, I was able to look at all the other adults in my life and ask questions like, I see that these people are really wealthy. We're not. Why is that? Why why are they wealthy and we're not? What is it they're doing and but we aren't doing? Um, why do these people have great relationships? Right. I see some people, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, constantly fighting, or others that get along like best friends. Why doesn't everybody have that? I look at people that were like older people that were really just sick, and they're not even that old, but they're just sick and have all kinds of diseases. And other people that were super old, but really fit, very healthy, sound of mind. And so I started wondering, well, why do they have that? If you would ask other people, they would say, oh, well, those people were just lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wouldn't look into it any deeper than that. They would just begrudge those people for having what they have and then just go on doing what they always did.
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, I started looking into, well, okay, so why? Why do these people do this? What is it that they're doing? And what I saw was that these people all had a pattern. The people that were successful in life at whatever they were doing, whether it was financial or relationship wise, health, they were all doing the same things. Whereas the people that were unhealthy or not wealthy or not wise were all not doing those things. And so I started wanting to do all the things that the successful people did and trying to emulate that. So I did that to an extent in my life, which made me a little different from the rest of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Probably annoyed my family because it just brought on more questions like, well, hey, I see these guys are doing this. How come we're not doing this? We could be better off if we did this. But, you're not always open to hearing things like this from a kid, right? So it's usually like, shut up, kid. You bother me. Go away. Anyway, I didn't look deep enough into that, especially when it came to nutrition. When it came to food, I thought just like everybody else thought, food is just something you put in your mouth and, it makes the grumbling go away so you don't feel hungry anymore. And that's it. You can eat pretty much anything and you'd just be fine. And food was magic. It was something mom just made, right? I didn't know where it came from, right? Didn't know all the work that went into it. And from mom's perspective, if she could get it out of a box or a bag or a drive-through, all the better, right? Why have to slave in a kitchen making something from scratch that actually have been much more healthy? So I never questioned those things. I grew up eating peanut butter and honey sandwiches every day. I went through college and was eating ramen noodles and drinking beer for calories because that's all I could afford, and I never really thought anything more about it. So it was later in my life, unfortunately. I wish I would have known then, what I know now. But it was only later in life that I started realizing that what we eat is what we're made of. That our body takes that in and builds from the stuff that we take in, which is patently obvious to us now. But there's still a lot of people that live their lives like that's not the case. All my friends are pretty much that way. When I'm with my friends, they like to stop off and do the donuts and the coffee cakes and all the snack foods and the drive-throughs. And it can be hard because I'm a social guy. So when I'm with my friends, sometimes when in Rome, do like the Romans, right? I still tend to do some of those bad behaviors, although I do try to pick better choices amongst those bad behaviors. I really went off on a tangent here for your question, but
No. Well, no. Thanks. This is a very great. Thanks for sharing this story because it's really interesting. I think that this is the basis of engineering mindset, and so your observation. So, but the mystery is what has initiated you to think this way because you could have done okay. They don't. My parents they don't care about my question. I stopped. I continued for some reason, this is one of the mysteries. I don't know, is it DNA, whatever it is. There was this something that it sparkled your curiosity and in a way that even with some blockers, you start the observation around you and start learning and questioning. Yeah, I think that this is a very great approach and mindset. And you did this without any, like Tony Robbins. I mean, this is personal, these motivators. Yeah,
I
this
was
is
a
all.
big Tony Robbins fan.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I found Tony Robbins in the 80s and I bought
Okay.
every program he
So
ever made.
did that helped?
Oh,
No. Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
perfect. Okay. 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 That's why this is one of the things. Not in particular Tony Robbins. It's very good, but there are others. So this sparkling this thing. So the initiative and helping, because you need to have your innate stuff before, okay, and then you move on. So this is a great example. And I know that one of the questions is how you face your comparison with Bryan Johnson, etc., which I had the honor of interviewing last year. So, and but one
I
of the
find it a
question,
little
what,
frustrating, actually, but yeah.
yeah. This is the not competitor. I mean, but it is obvious that.
I don't like to compare myself to Brian, but yet I see all these YouTube
Yeah,
videos that say,
exactly.
"Oh, I'm 61 and I'm beating Brian." You know, it's like,
Yeah,
oh my,
exactly. Yeah,
you're right.
as I mentioned at the beginning, is I'm not. I don't think. I'm sure you are not looking extrinsically goal. Okay, I need to beat this or that. So this is the intrinsic values are the stronger one.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked at the beginning.
Although
Yeah,
the competition does make it fun.
yeah, this sure, this sure. This is sometimes healthy competition. Yes, yeah, sure. Is giving a plus. Also, again,
But that's a
another.
double-edged sword for me too, because I'm a constant experimenter,
Yeah,
and I've said this on my website that I'm always changing up things. I want to see like how they affect me. But since placing and ranking on the Rejuvenation Olympics, I've been a little bit hesitant to change too much because I don't want to drop down in the ranking.
you see.
So that's messing with my head a little bit, and I'm trying to fight against that and keep doing my experimentation anyway. So
Yeah, you're right. This is double edge. Yeah, okay, just a question. Okay, then we will jump here and there, but I noticed that you changed something somewhere in the website about tea.
yes.
I'm curious about that. I see that you are no more drinking that big shirt tea because of something related to absorption. Just, can you please clarify?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was shocking to
Ah,
me. So I started noticing my energy levels changing.
hmm,
You know, okay, so maybe 4 years ago, no, probably longer than that now. The whole missing year of 2020 messes with my
yeah.
sense of time. So it's hard for me to gauge when things happen. But at one point, I noticed it was starting to take me 2 hours to do a 1 hour P90X workout. It was just my energy level wasn't there. But it happened so gradually that I hardly noticed until, at some point I couldn't ignore it anymore. And then that's when I learned about NAD supplementation, in particular NR, the True Niagen product that I take. I started taking it just out of curiosity. I wanted to see what it would do. Coincidentally, I think back to like when I was 30, there was actually an NADH supplement that I took,
mhm.
and it didn't do anything for me. It makes sense because in my 30s, I probably didn't have any issues at all with my NAD levels. So, but I started taking this NR supplement, and I was shocked that I could then do my 1 hour P90X workout in an hour and still have plenty of energy left. So that was pretty cool. But in the past several months, I started noticing my energy levels, starting to drop off again. And so I figured that possibly I'm just getting older. My need for NAD supplementation is probably getting greater,
Mhm.
and so maybe I should start increasing my dosage of NR. But then I thought, well, I know better than doing that now. I know to test first before just changing supplementation. So I took a couple of NAD tests, one from Infinity, one from Do Not Age, because I wanted to compare the two of them. And they both said that I'm still in the maybe low end of optimal. So that wasn't it. I was kind of puzzled. But at the same time, I also did my annual SpectraCell micronutrient analysis. And I was absolutely floored when I saw the results of that come back, because it showed that I had a vitamin B deficiency
B.
and CoQ10. And I thought, well, how in the world can that be? Because CoQ10 and vitamin B are two of the things that I supplement quite regularly. In fact, the vitamin B I do in divided doses. I do one in the morning and one in the evening. And the same with my CoQ10. So that made absolutely no sense to me. I thought maybe the test was wrong. Maybe I got somebody else's results by mistake. But it made me start digging in and thinking, well, all right, maybe if this is no mistake, why? Why is this happening? I must be taking something else in my supplements that's blocking the absorption of my vitamin B and the multiple of vitamin Bs. And through using AI, which is kind of cool these days, instead of Dr. Google, I learned that teas, like green teas and such, are known to block the absorption of B vitamins and CoQ10. And this was a whole new revelation for me. I was completely unaware of. I had issues with the tea that I was drinking because I brew it really strong. I mean, the thought process is, okay, if a little bit of tea is good for me, then a lot of tea, really strong brewed tea, must be even better, right? You think I would have learned by now, because done that many times through my life. Well, that was wrong, because I started seeing that my ferritin levels were dropping, and realized that the teas were doing the same thing with my iron absorption. So I cut back on the number of tea bags that I would be brewing when I would brew a whole pitcher full of tea. And that seemed to resolve the ferritin issue. So I thought things were good until this micronutrient analysis. And at that point, I just said, all right, the heck with this. The tea is probably just more of a hindrance than it is a help. And I just took it completely out of my morning lemon water brew.
Wow, this is all new for me. I'm taking notes, but I want to dive deep a little bit. Because that green tea, for the reasons, it's beneficial for. But I did not know this link between the absorption of.
Well, an interesting thing was, it wasn't just blocking the absorption. It was it's like the tannins and the polyphenols supposedly bind to the same receptors. And so even though in the morning when I was taking my supplements with the tea, that would have been bad enough. Yet I was still taking those supplements in the evening without the tea. And yet I'm still deficient. It's because the receptors are still being blocked by those. So then that led me down the path of finally finishing what I had originally started, was to take any of the supplements that I have that include or contain polyphenols and tannins, and move those over into the evening, because those would be more autophagy inducing. And so
this solved the issue.
I've noticed my energy levels pop back up, and I've noticed less hair loss in the shower, which is another big another big puzzle that I was having, like trying to figure out why. When I talked to, obviously I dye my hair, right? When I talked to the girl that colors my hair, I would constantly ask her, am I thinning up there? Because I'm seeing way too much hair. And she says, no. She says, you're still just as thick as ever. She would assure me that it was just because my hair is longer now, which this is my pandemic hair. I stopped cutting my hair in the pandemic, and I just let it grow ever since. I never had long hair before. She says, it's just because your hair is longer, you're just seeing it now. When it was shorter, it would just go down the drain and you wouldn't notice it as much. And that seemed plausible to me, but I didn't think that was still explaining the what I would call bird's nests of hair that were in the brain. So, but now that I've taken the tea out, I'm not noticing the hair loss in the drain either. So that's another big thing.
That's very very good. I will dive deep into that. But again, this is a link to your spirit, curiosity, observation. Because you mentioned that you realized that it was a problem because you realized this time to complete a workout. So again, this comes back to the self quantification and all this biohacking mechanism, which is okay. You observe what is happening, you feel yourself in some way, and then you tweak the protocols and what you are doing. That's a very interesting approach. I think it's also coming from the engineering background, anyway. But
I mean, that's why I'm totally convinced that all the aches and the pains and the ailments and the loss of energy and all the things that we tend to consider part of normal aging probably aren't normal. In fact, I would assert that they are not normal aging. They're just things that our bodies either aren't producing enough of now that we're older, or we're not getting enough of from our diet and supplementation. The fact that we're not getting out and moving more, if we're sitting too much, you start to stiffen up, and just these things I think are all based on what we're doing to ourselves. Like we're slowly poisoning ourselves with the foods that we're eating and the way that we're cooking our foods, and the cleaning products that we use and the personal care products that we slather on our face and brush our teeth with, and all these things that include a bunch of chemicals that, and I laugh at myself when I hear myself say these things. I think, oh my gosh, this guy's a nut, because I used to think that anybody that said these things was an absolute kook. But I'm seeing now, and the more I investigate this stuff, that these things do matter. They do accumulate. They do build up in our bodies, whether the FDA says that it's good for us or not. And so, and I try to use myself as the example of, hey, look, I'm doing this. I'm doing this different from what everybody else is doing, and I can try to talk to my friends about this stuff. And I mostly just get blank stares, right? They're like, whatever, they don't get it. But yet I'll have people ask me, like, well, when they find out how old I am, they're completely shocked. And it's not from good luck. It's not from good genes. It's from, I believe it's from my lifestyle. And so I'm trying to prove what I believe is right by how I live my life, and then how I appear in the world, how I think, how I feel, how I move. And so far, I think I'm doing pretty good in proving that.
Can confirm.
More of my friends are starting to buy into this now.
That's again. This was another question about what the others are thinking about you, because they look at you. I mean, I face this every day in the office. I face every day with all my stuff on the table, and every day comments coming. But this is it's good that you again sparkle curiosity in others, because not the way around. Because at the beginning of my journey, I tried to talk a little bit on my initiatives, so to talk a little bit, and then I realized no. If they are really interested, they will ask, and I will talk. Because if not, you stay there like a teacher or a mentor. Okay, I know this, I know that. But if really people are not, and this came from my parents as well, and my family is old-fashioned. I mean, so they do believe more in they are lucky. This is genetics, 100%. Genetic part is one part that is still, but epigenetics and lifestyle is the huge difference here. This is very interesting. Let's jump in another, because I've seen again quickly, because your website is comprehensive of everything. So, but there is one point, because not so long ago on your Instagram account, I show you sharing something about food social activity. Do you remember? Was a food
the Feed My Starving Children? Yeah. Our church was doing a project where we wanted to package 1 million meals for children around the world. And we ended up surpassing that million, but it was a great way for our community to come together and package these meals. It was fun to do. It was for a great cause. and we did it over a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday.
Well, that is really great. But yeah, there's something that looking at that spirit of observation as well. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, there is anything on your website about that, about the social part, the community, which according to the blue zone stuff, all this thing, community and social activities, this interaction, this doing good for the others, this empathy, I think this is my is impacting is impacting again in the happiness, interior happiness, joy, and again this joy, interior joy, it will transmute into an external way. But what do you think about that?
I totally agree, and it is on my website, but it's very well hidden.
Okay.
It's buried in probably the very last question on my Q&A page.
Yeah.
And now that you've pointed this out, I agree. I should probably change that and make it more prominent. Probably make it a page all on its own, because it is important. It's very important. So I'm blessed with a really large community of friends. It's going to sound crazy. A lot of people don't go to church at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 churches that I go to.
Wow.
4 if you count the one I just listened to on podcasts and don't go to physically. But I was not a churchgoer for most of my life. And then when I moved back home in 2001 to take care of both of my parents, I knew that I was missing something in my life, because I was very much a lone wolf, kind of a hermit. I just myself. I didn't have very many friends. I had maybe 1 or 2 close friends, and that was it. I was the type of guy, if I went to a party, I would be a fly on the wall. I just, hung over on the side and didn't really mix with people, because I had a pretty low self-esteem. I mean, growing up with, my father, I assumed that I was not that bright, and, I wasn't that interesting, and, was told to shut up most of the time. So I just didn't think that I had anything interesting to say. So, all right, so I'm digressing. Where was I going with this? Church. Okay, so I asked a good friend of mine to take me to a church, because I'd always been interested in knowing about God. And I could never figure out God on my own. I would ask my parents, who were not churchgoers, and they didn't really know. I even tried going to catechism for a while. And when I would ask the nuns questions, I would usually just get smacked and say, don't be a little smartass. I didn't think I was being a smartass. I thought I was just asking honest questions. But catechism, I think at that time, was more about just an after-school daycare rather than teaching you anything. So I wasn't getting anything out of that. We also had a King James Bible, very, very thick, written in the Old English. And I opened that and I could not make heads or tails out of any of the things they were saying. So I couldn't figure out God in my own religion. So I ended up reading all kinds of books on other religions, Judaism, Hinduism, the Tao, any spiritual text from Yaqui Indians. So I considered myself a very spiritual person, but I was not religious.
No.
So this friend started taking me to these little churches, and they were very little, like so small that when I showed up, it was very obvious I was a newcomer. And so the pastor would point to me and call me out as the newcomer and ask me to stand and give my testimony. And well, I'm terrified of public speaking, for one. And I had no idea what a testimony was. So here I am, petrified, standing up in front of all these people. And I don't know what to say, because I don't even know what they're asking me. So that was a horrible situation. And when we got out of there, I told my friend, I said, don't ever do that to me again. Take me somewhere else. It's got to be somewhere else. He took me to another church, and exactly the same thing happened. And so I just said, all right, that's it. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And then he found this really large mega church. It's a 10,000 member church that was maybe a half hour away from our home. And he says, you got to come here. You're going to love it. There's a lot of hot looking chicks here. And I actually said, no, I don't want to go for that. I mean, I truly want to find God. I don't want to just go and find hot looking chicks. I mean, we're already going out to the bars every night and doing that. I mean, I didn't want my church experience to be exactly the same thing. So I resisted. And then next thing I know, he had all of our other male friends going with him every Sunday. And I was the lone holdout. So finally I gave in and I went. And I'm hoping I'm not like digressing off into a whole strange story here that you're not interested in. But my first time at this particular church, I got in and they were singing worship, and there was just something about the whole atmosphere there that I just found myself crying. And I could get emotional telling this story again, so I'm going to try not to go off the deep end. But I just had tears flowing down my face because I was so moved by the experience. And I knew that was my home. I knew that's where I belonged. Like I said, having not been a churchgoer, that was a huge experience for me. And the talks were fantastic. They were very meaningful to my life. They were inspirational. They spoke to me and my situation. It almost felt like the pastor was talking directly to me. And of course, speaking with other people, they all felt exactly the same way. And I loved it because I could be completely anonymous there because it was so huge, right? Nobody was going to call me out as the newcomer and make me speak. And so I was there for many, many, many years. And then one day, one of my friends who was a volunteer there kept trying to get me to volunteer too. And I jokingly said, Frank, someday when I retire, I want to be just like you. I want to volunteer all my time at the church. And he had this question for me that I never anticipated. He said, why wait? And I had no witty comeback for that. There was no good reason why. And so begrudgingly, I said, okay, because I didn't know what they were going to make me do. Right? You're like, oh, churches, volunteer. What are they going to do? This is going to suck. And they ended up putting me as a greeter at the back entrance of the church.
Okay.
And he, like I said, I was a guy that didn't like being the center of attention. I was not very sociable. And all of a sudden now I'm the guy that people are coming up the steps to see. And I was so awkward at it. But as time went by, I got a little better at it. I also was going through a bad breakup at the time. And so I was a little heartbroken. And so seeing all these, loving families coming in together, see, there I go, get emotional again. It really, tugged on my heartstrings. So I had this sense that I should be taking the love that I had for this other person and her family that didn't work out and just start pouring it on all the people that were coming in the door. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird, but all right, I'll give that a shot. And so I started, projecting that feeling of love and family to the people that were coming in the door. And much to my surprise, they started responding to that and treating me the same. And so their children would see me and come running to me and hug me, because they loved Mr. Dave, and would pick them up and shake them. And, the parents would come hug me, and then pretty soon, I'm hugging everybody that's coming in.
Wow.
And it's not me forcing hugs on people. These are people that wanted to hug me. And I just, wow, this is just blowing my mind. So church in that respect really ended up changing the person that I am today from that experience. And I greeted at the South Entrance for 10 years. And so I got to know thousands and thousands of people in this 10,000 member mega church. We also started a running team in that group in conjunction with World Vision. And that's one of the things you've probably seen on my website. I have a very large community of friends from the running team and from Team World Vision. And those friends are like family to me today. And so yes, community is huge. It's given me a sense of purpose. Having young children come hug you is the best thing in the world. Children are so loving, so kind. They don't care how old you are, how young you are, how tall you are, how short you are, how fat, how skinny, how good looking, how ugly. They don't care. They're just accepting of everybody. And so, yeah, it's just a very moving experience.
Innocent, the innocence. Well, thanks for sharing this story. It's beautiful. And again, I see you were in the out of your comfort zone there, and this trigger, and again, I change. And again, linked to the thing that when we started, the empathy inside is something that is showing up outside. When you mentioned that love, you moved, you transposed, I don't know how to say it, the love for the other, and everyone was seeing that. And
Yeah,
well, and with strangers that anyway they are going to the church, and is a selected type of people, but still there are plenty multitude of people. So in this big, huge church, and this is very okay. Are you writing a book? I mean, I think this could be a chapter. Yeah, no, this could be an entire chapter in the book, your book, because and again, this is I think this a big one in longevity and what is resulting. So this was again one question I raised to Bryan Johnson, but so how you deal with your spirituality, I think was something like that. He basically was more on the. So he said, if something cannot be measured, I don't track. Indeed, it's how can you track this? It's not like a test you do every 6 months. It's not tangible. It's not, but is a huge component. And then this again coming back to the blue zones when the social community is impacting for sure. But
it's not measurable, but it's very noticeable.
Yes.
I treat everybody that way now, not just people in church, and I still get the same responses from people. So I mean, like you said, it's preaching to the choir. That's the people at church are a certain type of people.
Yeah.
It seems like it might only work with them, but it doesn't. It seems to work with everyone, which is another big surprise.
Yeah, this is again a lesson learned for today as well. Okay, we come back to a little bit to the routine. We have all the latest routine on your website, right? And I'm thinking about the Pareto principle. So because you do quite a lot of stuff, you have also a wish list. So you are interested for EWOT. So exercise with oxygen system. So you would like ozone as well. I interviewed as part of the podcast Mr. Ozone, Dr. Ozone, Frank Schallenberger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is I interviewed.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. I interviewed him twice. But in terms of applying the Pareto principle, 80-20. So what 20% of effort giving back 80% of results. So among these things, or if you want to have another way of formulating that, if you need to distill this into 3 points, or the major or the most effective, most impactful things you do, what they will be?
Well, I always have to go back to the basics because sleep, movement, sunlight, nutrition. I mean, those are key for anybody doing anything, really. In fact, when I look at the people that are on the Rejuvenation Olympics leaderboard, I can think of the only two people I really know anything about would be number 4, Jen Vell, and number 8, which would be Julie Gibson Clark. I don't know Julie personally. I only know what I've read about her in articles, which I never know how much of that to believe based on what I've seen about articles about myself. They get things wrong, but the majority of which they get correct. But and like I said, knowing Genvel, neither one of them do much in the way of supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mainly just living a very clean lifestyle. Movement, really important. Sleep, really important. Diet, nutrition, really important. When it comes to biohacks, I would have to say that, probably 80% of what I get from biohacking comes from my sauna.
Okay.
I have a Clear Light Sanctuary 3 sauna. Much like Ben Greenfield has a Clear Light sauna, although his is the great big one where he can actually do workouts inside of his. I didn't have the room in my tiny little house for something like that. So a 3-person sauna was about the size that I could handle. But I get so much out of my sauna because basically, you're sweating out a lot of toxins. You're getting rid of regular intracellular waste through sweating. You're increasing BDNF for your brain growth. Gosh, there's so many things. Heat shock proteins. It helps with misfolded proteins. There's just so many things that sauna affects for the positive. My skin, I've noticed my skin being so much better, from my regular sauna use. I was a massage therapist, went through massage school, and we noticed that when you massage people who don't sweat very much, who don't exercise very much, their skin has a certain feel to it. It's almost like a crunchiness, maybe like there's a buildup of, I would guess I maybe have to say salt. I don't know.
I was thinking the same, like dry salt that, I understand.
And you can feel that in their skin, whereas somebody who is more athletic and exercises often, their skin is much more supple, more smooth. You don't feel the crunch. And so I get that from that as well. Plus my phone has, the far infrared, the near infrared, far infrared, regular infrared, and I added near infrared floodlights to it too. So I'm getting the red light treatment while I'm in there as well. So.
Same time. So you do daily?
I would love to do it daily. My life doesn't always permit for that. So I try to do it after workouts. But I probably get to it about 3 times a week, if not 4.
Okay. And the inversion table there?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's in the background. So, that's another thing about my routines is everybody asks me, well, how is it that you do all this stuff? If I had to go off and go do that, I would never do it. Well, I put it right there. This is my bedroom. My bed is right next to me. This is my bed right here.
Okay.
I have off on the other side of the bed, which you can't see, is a little mini trampoline. So when I wake up, I don't even have to get out of bed to do my PEMF because my PEMF mat is right underneath me. So perfect. I just turn it on. I lay there. I have a smart home, and I speak to, I'm going to call her Amelia, because if I call her by her name, she's going to...
Wake up everyone.
Right. I say good morning to her, which launches her morning routine where she says good morning back. She tells me the weather. She tells me what's on my schedule for the day. She tells me a fun fact. And then she'll give me the news from CNN, ABC News, and Fox News. So I get the briefs from all 3 of those. So while I'm laying there doing the PEMF, I'm listening to like what's going to happen in my day, what the weather is going to be like, and what's going on in the world. So, so I'm doing 2 things at once, or multiple things at once there. And then I get out of bed and I go bounce a little bit on the mini tramp, which really helps get the bowels moving. So I might have to go run off to the bathroom at that point, but then I'll come back and I'll do the inversion table for 5 minutes or so. So things like that, because they're right in my vicinity, I would trip over them otherwise. I can't not do them. Yeah. So for me, doing all of my routines comes from automating them, basically, just making them a habit. As long as they're a habit and they're on my path, on my way out my bedroom, on the way to the rest of the house, I can't forget to do them. They're just there.
This is one of the key points for habits, removing friction, which I love. So this room I cannot show you. is a mess. My wife is heavily against this because I keep everything. If I keep storing weights or things like that, or red light, or I forget, or I struggle in initiating and triggering the first, and then will cascade the second and the third. And yeah, I would love to have everything view in open space. So, but unfortunately, it's not realistic as well. But
Speaking of Miriam, tell her I said hi, by the way.
okay, thanks. And then I love sauna. So it's also cold exposure as well. Do you know cold exposure as well?
I do. I actually bought a 7-foot long chest freezer, and it sits outside in my back patio underneath the awning.
Okay.
But it's great. It works really well,
Mhm.
but it's hard to keep clean because if I go in there, I tend to like to put lotions on for my skin. And if I go there without taking a shower first, then the lotions just kind of build up and leave a scum. I don't have any kind of ozone generator to clean it with. So it's not very practical as far as keeping clean. So I do cold showers at the end of my normal showers. So that's
Yeah.
And in Michigan, the Michigan winters get pretty cold. So I can just step outside after my sauna and freeze to death. So
yeah, the sauna is great. I'm actually, every time I travel, I try to find a hotel with sauna, so to go there. I have the red light therapy there. I do every morning. I used to do now VR workouts in front of the red light. So I try to stack this. I have my seasonal affective disorder lamp here. Yes. Being in Luxembourg, which is pretty dark in the winter, is another mess thing for circadian rhythm as well. I add just because we talk about your website. Another interesting thing for the audience is you have your Audible book list, your podcast subscriptions. We know you have a log of books you read in the 2017, I think it's 18, and so you have logged all the books. And I'm really curious, who is Dennis Taylor? You read a lot of books, and I was curious to understand.
Being an engineer, you've really hit upon somebody that you need to know.
Oh, okay.
Dennis Taylor is an engineer who became an author, and he writes just brilliant sci-fi.
Okay, sci-fi.
If you look into one of those, you'll get hooked. I started the first book, and I just had to keep going.
Okay, I will follow your advice. I will follow your advice. Okay. And then you have the podcast, and other two things that are not common. You use every now and then, I think, methylene blue.
Yes.
And a C60.
Yes.
Which are not, for some reason, I don't know why these two things are hidden somewhere, because people are talking always the same things, NMN and all, but they don't talk about these two things. For me, are really, really important. So today is my blue day, so I had my blue methylene, and so why are you using the two of them, and if you how often you use them?
So those fall under the things that I cannot measure, but I have faith. Right?
Yeah.
I was trying to get away from doing things, taking things that I couldn't measure. So, but those, I couldn't get rid of those. So there's a lot of interesting science around C60. Mm-hmm. It's if you Google for it, they call it the buckyball. I guess there was a guy by the name of Buckminster Fuller that designed this geodesic shaped dome or sphere, and the carbon 60 molecule is shaped like that. And I guess it's not natural. It's a synthetic molecule. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's something that they actually have to produce. But they found that it has these really interesting and beneficial biological effects.
Mhm.
And I'm no expert in it. I wasn't prepared to answer this
No,
question.
no problem.
I really can't go into the science around it, but
No problem. I will. I'm really curious. I would love to start in the YouTube channel, focus videos on specific things like that. In
but the
particular,
methylene blue is
yeah,
supposed to really help with mitochondrial
yeah,
activation.
yeah.
And so that's
That,
kind of interesting. So I do it for that. I don't do it all the time. I do it maybe once a week or once every other
yeah.
week. I just did it yesterday.
Oh yes, good,
I
good.
was about it. So.
Yeah, I do two times, twice a week, I think. Yeah, something like that. And I listen to different podcasts, etc. So I actually use it with vitamin C, absorbic acid, because
Yeah.
of electron stuff. Yeah, as you mentioned, I feel okay, but I think that is giving me some steady energy. But I do for the beneficial effects that are very well known. And C60, I really notice a subjective feeling of more energy. But again, this is another story. We are going just 1 hour. I would love to talk, but maybe we will have another session sometime after
Okay.
your trip to Italy when you're coming
Yeah,
to
I'm
Italy.
having fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Peptides. So you do peptide injection, right?
yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite peptides is doing melanotan 2. So when you see the two pictures of me versus Bryan that they like to post all the time,
Uh-huh.
where Bryan's looking very, very pale and I'm looking very tan,
Uh-huh.
my tan isn't from being out in the sun because I don't like to go. I go in early morning and evening sun, but not noonday sun. So my tan is actually from the peptide melanotan 2. It's a peptide that induces the production of melanin in the skin. And as you know, melanin is something the body produces itself naturally as a protection against UV radiation.
Ooh.
And so by doing this injection, you do, multiple injections, well, like single injections each day for maybe 10 days in a row. And then you go out in some sunlight and the tan just pops.
Wow. I
And
missed
so
this one. Yeah.
so before any like major event, like at my church, I was in our church's annual Christmas play
Mm-hmm.
where we're on stage with a bunch of bright lights. They want us to go get a spray tan or a real tan. Otherwise we look completely washed out with all the bright light. And I do the melanotan too in preparation for that. So when my pictures were taken on New Year's morning, I still had a really nice tan from that. So
This on the website, right?
yes,
You have
I'm going to
a
apologize
airplane.
because my Roomba is in the background and it just decided to start
No, I
vacuuming.
don't. No, it's okay. I seems an airplane flying. So
Okay.
it's okay. Okay, now
It's going to get louder as it gets closer.
well. It's pretty much all from my side. Yeah, there is a question about almond milk.
Oh, almond milk.
Yeah, you start doing preparing, or you're still buying, or you don't use anymore.
I haven't started doing it yet
Okay,
myself.
okay.
I would love to because I don't like the garbage that they put in almond milk when I buy it at the store.
It looks easy, so we will try. So maybe we can share the pictures.
Yeah. I want to make kombucha. I'd like to, make my own kombucha. I'd like to make my own yogurt.
Okay.
And I guess these things aren't difficult. They just take time. And so,
Yeah. I mean, kombucha. I never. What about kimchi?
Oh, kimchi would be interesting too.
Yeah.
I've only just recently started doing kimchi. I'll mix it in with sauerkraut when I make a chuck roast.
Whoa.
So I'm not actually tasting the kimchi directly. It's mixed in with other flavors. So,
whoa.
But I know it's good.
Yeah, perfect. No, but also kombucha, the one they sell is almost always with sugar, and I really don't like it. I will try as well. So, any other point? I will link everything to the show notes. So, any other thing you would like to say before closing this call?
Wow. I listened to the podcast that you had with Bryan Johnson, and Bryan's an interesting guy. There's so much of what he says that I completely agree with, and yet there's other stuff that he says that I just think, no, I don't agree with that at all. Like Bryan thinks that we're all hopelessly and helplessly unable to do the things that are in our own best interest. And I don't think that's true. It's not for me. Um, I think it's just a matter that we don't look into what is in our own best interest. We don't question that. We accept things as they are. We're kind of brainwashed into the same societal beliefs that everybody else is. And so we don't look into things deep enough. But I think if we're shaken up a little bit, like you notice when people get a health scare, when they get that cancer diagnosis, they all of a sudden change their lifestyle. They miraculously start, eating less processed foods and start eating more fruits and vegetables. And, why don't we do that stuff before we get a cancer diagnosis so that we don't get the cancer diagnosis? Things like this that we need wake-up calls. And I just think more of us need these kind of wake-up calls in our life to start changing things now slowly, not like just radically upheave our daily life, but start slowly making changes today that can benefit our health and our longevity. And we'll be so much better for it. But, you have to be introspective. You have to question these things. And once you know, I think then it's easy to do. It's not a matter of we're helpless and we're incapable of looking somewhere else.
That's a great
We're
point.
just not aware of what's in our own best interest.
That's a great point. I fully agree. Maybe it's not in line with what is happening in the world today, but for instance, AI, all this, before developing AI, we should develop our own I first, the comfort in which we are as a humanity to do what you are saying, which is the right thing. You need effort outside comfort zone. And this is going year over year, down, down, down. So less people are willing to, I would say, suffer, because it's not suffering, but when you go out of your comfort zone, it's not nice. I mean, so it's easier now to look at, okay, Estela, if this something will happen, or we have AI solving problems in some way that no one knows, if and ever. And yeah, we look at Mars. Okay, we colonizing Mars. Okay, but okay, we still have planet Earth here. So yeah, I fully align with what you say. But again, people, I'm following many communities from the biohacking to zero. People are trying to copy routines. People are willing to take supplements to use just for the sake of finding the magic recipe. Okay, I do the same thing that Andrew Huberman is doing. Peter, why you are doing something that is another human being like anyone else, but you can be inspired, you can learn a lot. So I learn a lot. As you mentioned, there are many points that you believe. There is still when we were talking about methylene blue and C60, and something that in these communities may never have any effect or validation, scientific or anything, or something that may have in 20 years from now, and we don't know. Maybe they will discover that methylene blue will solve something that we don't know yet, or maybe not. And there's plenty of things to learn. I think the learning point and introspection, as you mentioned, is a key point for humanity. I'm talking about the humanity overall, and the spiritual side is another thing that should grow more. Thank you, very good, inspiring words. Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you so much for making this fun. I was a little scared because this is my very first podcast. So thank you for being gentle with me.
No, thank you very much, Dave. You are great. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Did you like this episode? If so, simply subscribe, thumbs up, and click on the notification bell not to lose any opportunity in the future. And remember, sharing is caring, even for a coffee. Even better. Till next time, see you soon.